afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. My name is Daniela Brito, and I'm a curatorial specialist in the Public Programs and Exhibitions Department here at the Schomburg. I'm thrilled to have you with us for the first program of Black on Screen, A Century of Radical Visual Culture. This series captures 100 years of local and transnational Black movement work and artistic evolution on film, bringing together feature films, documentaries, performance recordings, concerts, and so many more formats from our moving image and recorded sound collections. Thank you, MIRS, for all of your support in helping us bring this program together. Black on Screen is inspired by our Centennial exhibition, which is currently on view in our galleries. The exhibition celebrates a century of collections of Black history, culture, and memory here at the Schomburg, with an assortment of artifacts, artworks, and ephemera from our divisions. Learn more about the series and all of our Centennial events by visiting schomburg.org/100. Also, if you want to take a look at more material from the Moving Image and Recorded Sound Division, you're welcome to visit them on the 3rd floor of the Landmark Building, Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The division doesn't require appointments, so feel free to walk in. The first program of Black on Screen is Teaching Liberation, Education by Us, for Us, which spotlights the historic mid-20th century movement for community control and education across New York City, with a keynote conversation by Dr. E. Babette Edwards and Dr. Terry N. Watson, professor of educational leadership at CCNY and protege of Dr. Edwards. Dr. Edwards is a Harlem-born advocate and veteran of NYC school reform. We will then screen shorts from our collections that highlight these reformative efforts in alternative schools, led by Black educators like Mildred Johnson's The Modern School and Barbara Taylor's Barbara Taylor School. I believe Johnson's daughter is in the house with us tonight, so let's give a warm welcome to her. In our lobby, please also take a look at a presentation of materials from our collections in manuscripts, archives, and rare books, as well as prints and photographs that speak to these critical legacies of educational reform and Black self-determination. Later in the evening, we'll screen Tayo and Cynthia Giwa's The Sun Rises in the East, a film that documents the Pan-African educational renaissance in 1970s Brooklyn. We will close out the program with a Q&A with the directors alongside Basir Mchawi, an original member of the East, who's also here with us today. Before I turn the mic to Dr. Edwards and Dr. Terry Watson, I'd like to read a quote by Courtney Belser, a doctoral student in the Department of Urban Education at the CUNY Graduate Center, discussing Dr. Edwards' lasting impact on New York City public education system. She says, "When we talk about mother work and self-determination, Dr. Edwards is New York City's modern blueprint. Described by those close to her in this work as the real deal, we know this because she was the one who stood up when the system failed, the educator who kept the hard questions at the center, standing fearlessly chained to buildings in civil disobedience. In Black Power, she fought for schools for her own children didn't need to attend, but she did it because all of Harlem's children matter. A dream activator, the people's storyteller, she opened her home, built networks, and elevated parent voices right from the community to demand the rights to more resources, more respect, and more reciprocity out of public education. She is a rare gem hidden in plain sight." I'll now ask you to silence your cell phones and please give a warm, warm welcome to Dr. E. Babette Edwards and Dr. Terry N. Watson.
Thank you, Daniela, for that wonderful introduction. I must say the word that I guess most liked, I was listening intently. She said that I was Dr. Edwards' protege, and I'm honored by that. I'm in awe of Dr. Edwards. As Danielle shared, my name is Terry Watson. I'm an associate professor of educational leadership. In sum, I teach teachers who'd like to become building and school leaders, and I study effective school leadership, and I work with school leaders to improve their practice. In the fall of 2018, I came here to the Schomburg in the spirit of Sankofa, meaning to look back. I was wondering being born and raised in Harlem, having attended New York City's public schools, I was wondering where were the black women, where were the black folks who were fighting for Harlem's children? And I needed some light, and I literally found Babette Edwards in the archives. And as I poured through so many documents from her dissertation in 1977 to her letter to President Lyndon B. Johnson, I was not only in awe, but I was so thankful that someone was literally thinking about me, fighting for me, invested in my future. And as I went through the archives again, I'm just looking at all of these boxes, and I'm like, this is just so awesome. I'd like to thank her. And so I asked the archivist, do you know how I can reach out to Dr. Edwards? Is she still with us? She said, you know what? I think so. Why don't you write me a letter, and I'll try to get it to her. So I excitedly went home and poured my heart out, just saying that I found you in the archives, and I want to thank you for, fighting for me in 1971 when I was just a baby, but knowing that someone was invested in Harlem's children and fighting the good fight, it warmed me, and it kind of renewed my interest in not just parent advocacy, but mother work. Mother work is a term that was coined by Patricia Hill Collins in 1994, and it's literally the work that women do on behalf of other people's children. So I wanted to thank her for her mother's work, for her advocacy, and literally give her flowers. And so that happened in 2018. We met, I went to her home, we're besties, and I've just gotten an opportunity to know her, and I'm really excited to have you listen in with us as I just ask her about her work on behalf of Harlem's children. And if there are any questions that you have that you want to ask of Dr. Edwards, there are 2 microphones in back of the room, so please jump in. But it is my hope that this is more of a conversation, more than a dialogue between us. It's between us. As being from Harlem, I was literally born right across the street. Dr. Edwards, she said, coming here, she was born in the old Harlem Hospital. But being from Harlem, we want to welcome you to the Schomburg, to our conversation. Dr. Edwards, as always, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, welcome.
So how are you feeling? Like, I know this is a lot, but when you think about, let's say, Harlem in the 1970s, when you were fighting for IS 201 to be a demonstration district, how was that?
It was rough. It was a struggle. And I always like to let other people know that it just wasn't me. It was a lot of people that jumped in and helped. And I want to say some of the names. I think some people know Jean Hudson. They had something here the other day, I understand, about her. If she wasn't alive, I don't think there would be a Schomburg library. She was the one that was there day and night, filing and sorting. If you crossed 135th Street, you could look up, and she was there with the papers. And this is before this building was built. These are some other people that helped try to bring effective education to this community. Berlin Kelly, Helen Testermark, Hannah Brockington, Ella Baker, you know her, Ivanhoe Donaldson, Emma Moses Baracelli, Joseph Forey, David Spencer, Kwame Ture, you know him, you used to know him in Stokely. Preston Wilcox, Ron Evans, who was a principal at IS 201, and you spoke with him recently. Bill Hall, Isaiah Robinson, he was president of the New York City Board of Ed very shortly. Alice Cornegay, and many other people. And out of IS 201 spawned 2 other demonstration districts. IS 201 was the first one. A Christian Science Monitor came and interviewed me and Helen Testermark because he had heard of us trying to get some, children in school. And then other newspapers interviewed us. And the district didn't like it at all, that this was in the paper. The system was sending their most inexperienced teachers, resulting in gross academic failure. These children were needed for, jobs that were unskilled. Children attended school for 8 years, not learning. And they didn't learn to read or write, and of course, they didn't do simple math. This was really horrible to me. Recently, these were a couple of headlines. Fewer Blacks, Latinos get offers to top high schools. David Jones, he writes for the Amsterdam. He has the column, A Broken Ladder. New York City's elite high schools continue to shut out Black and Latino students. This is a student who wanted to go to Bronx High School of Science, and they let her, they admitted her, but she had what they called the SHAT score. But she had told people that didn't define her. It wasn't the regular score that you needed to get into Bronx High School of Science. IS 201, I can't see most of you, or all of you, but one example of how bad the schools were and are, in 2022 at PS 30, that's in the Harlem district, 50 kids were tested and only 1 performed on level. And lately I haven't been involved as I usually was, and that shocked me. And he went on to get me some more test scores, and I wanted to really cry because the test scores were gotten from mostly Black districts, Latino districts. Black districts were Harlem, Latino districts, South Bronx, and Queens I thought was dominantly white, but now it's Asian. And the grades in the Harlem district, 218 to 218, I can't find that. That was, well, let me believe me, that from 218 to 2025, 76.7 kids couldn't read properly.
So I have a question for you, Dr. Edwards, because as you know, and you've been doing this work for over 70 years, despite New York City's diversity, our schools are among the most segregated in the nation. I have many colleagues who would argue that that's okay, meaning we should build on that. And they point to the success of historically black colleges and universities. So my question is, in 1967, when they opened IS 201,
1966.
66? Mm-hmm. In 66, when it opened, it was supposed to be an integrated school.
Yeah, the parents wanted that to be an integrated school. 201, people who live in Harlem know, has no windows. And some of the black parents made jokes about it, that they didn't want white people to see them. They opened that school in 1966. The day the school opened was unforgettable. These were parents out there protesting. There were police in the school with rifles, police on the roof with rifles, and a policeman took a parent and threw her to the ground and proceeded to walk over there, but Isaiah Robinson fell on the parent so the cop wouldn't get on the, hurt her. This is opening day at school with rifles pointed at parents. And from there on, the fight was on. We went to every level of government, from the district office to the Board of Ed to the regents, every place, telling them that these children have to be educated, and there's no one doing the job. There were no black or Latino principals in the city. There was one, Edith Gaines. She was a junior high school principal. No others were black or Puerto Rican. We fought for that. We told them that we didn't want a white principal because they were going to install one in 201. And when they put him there, assigned him there, we blocked the school. There was a big protest. And finally, they put a black person there. It was a horrific fight all the way to the Board of Ed. We sat with the Board of Ed. The Board of Education came to my house on First Avenue. There were Board of Ed limousines lined up in the street. And my husband walked in the apartment. He said, "What is this?" He said, "You didn't put the laundry away," and so forth. But there were limousines, and the neighbors were all out of their apartments, and they wanted me to meet with them. And I told them I wasn't meeting with them anymore because we got no results, for our children. The parents wanted integrated schools, and they didn't want integrated schools just to sit next to white kids. They wanted to sit next to white kids to look at what was the same thing on the board, the chalkboard, because they weren't getting proper books, they weren't getting proper lessons, and people called them militants, and finally they sent a lot of the children out of in Queens, and this woman that she was the head of the white people, Rosemary Gunning, they separated the black and Latino kids, so they were separated anyway. They separated them when they got there. It was made the children feel, of course, inferior. And we told them we're not going to take it. I don't know if you know the Lloyd Garrison. His son was the chair of the Central Board of Ed. And I asked him, you know, when were they going to integrate the schools like the parents want? And he said, maybe when the school gets better, the white children will come in, but not now. They would say anything to our kids and tell them lies, tell them dates, you know, that things would happen that wouldn't happen. And we had, you know, parents who, as I said, they weren't prejudiced, but they used to get, people would be angry and if they saw how they treated these kids. Homework was a slip of paper, no proper books. And that's why we opened up a tutorial. And some of our kids, we got into Bronx High School of Science without a test. We also got girls into Smith College without a test, because I hired teachers that really meant to, they loved these kids and they wanted them to really be the children they wanted to be. Their parents wanted them to be. From then to now, there has been really no increase in the horrible grades of our children. My son broke it down. He broke the test scores down from the Board of Ed, and the math scores down. The District 5, that's the Harlem School District, it's horrible. District 9, that's the Latino district. District 26, I thought was the white district, but it's now the Asian district. But black kids still don't have, and Latino kids still are not getting educated effectively.
So what do you think we should do as a community to help?
Well, parents have to really, parents are not respectfully treated in a lot of the schools. Or they'll go to a school and a teacher will tell them school is wonderful. I remember I was in a school and Dave Dinkins brought Bill Cosby in there. And Bill Cosby lectured the children and told them listen to their teacher because their teachers are doing well for them. And that was one of the worst schools in the district. So parents, and when parents ask for certain records, they tell parents they're not allowed to see their children's records. So parents have to be educated for things like curriculum, information that they have to get with no argument. We set up a tutorial. We didn't have a tutorial project. We had an advocacy agency. But the tutorial came because a parent brought 11 children into our office, and they were going to put her in jail because she wouldn't send them to school. And I said, I don't blame you for, sending them to school. Alfredo, I think his name was Alfredo Matthews, he came and said that he was going to put us in jail.
Who is he?
He was the chancellor for a bit.
Okay.
And when he saw what the kids learned that we did with them, he said, you all are doing a very good job. And teachers would come to me and ask me, where do you get your books? And I would tell them where to go get books, because teachers were giving children pieces of paper, and that was supposed to be their homework. My sister was a teacher, and she used to tell the custodian to lock up her materials, her books, because Klein, if you remember, imported some teachers from New Zealand. And they didn't know what they were doing. I don't know why he did it. He worked for Bloomberg. And my sister's class always achieved, and I'm not saying that because she was my sister, but everyone loved her, and her children achieved. So that made us say, we have to do something ourselves. We set up a tutorial, and our teachers were first rate. We had students from Columbia, and Columbia gave some of their people credits for working in my project.
It was after school or during school? Like, was it a half-day program or a weekend program?
What do you mean, for the children?
Right, for the tutorial.
Tutorial was a whole day thing. The parent with the 11 kids, her kids came there in the morning, and they stayed there until they were ready to go home. We took the children on trips. We used to take them to a restaurant to tell, this is how you sit in a restaurant. Plays. And we also had workshops for parents. This is what you have to know. This is the curriculum, and X, Y, and Z. This is how we did with most of the parents. And we had a collaboration at one point with Columbia University. And they were happy to do that because they like to write papers and the whole bit. But it was a big, 201 was a big fight. I think that 201, the whole struggle, could be it should be a play or a movie so that parents could learn for it. Because parents learned a lot from that whole fight. And when they learned, when the workshops we were given, parents came to the workshops. First, they would give excuses. I don't have car fare. We gave them car fare so that they would come and the teachers would help them do their homework. if a child was in a poor school, those parents would change their school, and we were telling the parent, help your neighbor, and let them know what you've learned. As soon as they learned what, they would take their children out of the school and take them downtown. I've talked to a lot of principals in the good schools regarding like a PS6, that was in that movie, and a lot of those other schools. And we've even taken parents on trips, and they couldn't believe that 2, 3, 4-year-olds could read because their children couldn't read. But it was a tiring encounter, and even now I go to schools with parents whose children were suspended for nothing, and get that child, back in school. And these kids are the kids that cannot be, that can go to college or a decent high school.
So what lessons can we learn? Because as you know, the 201 was a demonstration district. It was governed supposedly by parents, teachers.
Yeah, we set up a governing board, and a lot of the teachers whispered, what do those parents know? That kind of thing. I was working for MEND at the time. It was an anti-poverty program. I was a consultant there, but they elected a chair for this governing board. We had teachers on that governing board, and the teachers that were on the governing board just threw themselves, on that board and worked it like crazy. And then we had community people on the board. Out of that board came 2 bridges. That's in the 2 Bridges area. And Ocean Hill, Brownsville. They were really militant, like 201 was. Maybe some people remember Rhodey McCoy. He was in charge of Ocean Hill, Brownsville. And we had several people that, administered at 201. Finally, 201 collapsed. And I resigned, and Hannah resigned. Because we didn't know what was happening. The board wanted to take over everything. They couldn't imagine community folk dealing with finances or anything complex. And every obstacle they had, they would throw in the way of that movie. But I was scanning some of the material the other night, and it made me angry again, because what is that saying, the Japanese proverb? The schools are the future in miniature. And that's true. What our schools do effectively, will make out what our children will have or do.
I read your letter when I going through your archives, and I actually found the letter that you and Hannah Brockington wrote, well, you primarily, in February 5, 1971. Would you mind if I read the opening paragraph? Because when I read this, I knew I had to meet you. Okay, so here's what you said. You said, "For the last 15 years, we have fought those people who have deliberately crippled our children. Now, in 1971, we are still fighting the same fight. Only conditions are worse because the cripplers in the past were largely white and have now been joined by destructive and opportunistic education pimps, largely black, who prey on the Harlem community, sucking its lifeblood, the community's children." This is embodied in their children, and I guess that line, that education, those opportunistic pimps, what happened with the teachers at IS 201 that changed what it was hoped to become? Because there seemed to be some tension when you were leaving.
Yeah, they, I can't remember everything, I'm old. They went over to doing what the board, central board, wanted to do in certain situations. We even, I don't know if anyone remembered, we set up the People's Board of Ed, and each of us sat in one of the board seats at the Board of Ed, and people from all over the city came, and they had their papers and the testimony. And of course, they the next morning, they marched us into jail.
They marched you into jail?
We were in jail overnight that time. And the People's Board of Ed, you know, took the complaints the parents had, and we met with the Board of Ed again. Harold Howe was a federal person, education person, at the education department, you know, for the country. And Bernard Donovan was the superintendent for the city, and Al Shanker was the union president, and he hated the demonstration projects. They did everything they could to destroy it. Another time I was arrested was we were meeting at PS 39. That was a feeder school. And they had someone in there sitting there listening to everything we were saying. Even across the street, they had some sort of camera they could, or audio thing they could hear. And they woke up a captain to come out of his sickbed to arrest us. So
Fighting for your children's educational rights.
Yeah. The worst one were the rifles aimed at all those parents. I hated it. And Lindsay was the mayor at that time, and we were on a picket line. We blocked all the traffic on Madison Avenue, and the policeman walked over to me and grabbed my arm to arrest me. And this man came out of a barber shop and walked over and told me to move. So I said, move, and I looked at the cop's gun, you know. He said, yeah, move. And the cop's hand started shaking on my arm, and some other men came out, and a lot of the men in the community started paying attention to what was happening, because mostly it had been women. And it was really a hard fight for every little piece of victory that we had. And I can't remember every little thing, but it was horrible, some of the things that happened. And there are some horrible things that happen sometime now, because I've had to go to parents to school with their kids, because kids were suspended for nothing, you know, so.
Thank you. It's still heavy, but knowing that you were there, you are there, helping to not just empower, but engage parents to become involved with what's happening in terms of curriculum, in terms of teaching and learning, and what's not happening in the schoolhouse. I know that, as you alluded to earlier, I did speak with the first principal of IS 201, Mr. Ron Evans, and unfortunately he couldn't be here today, but he did say, and I quote, "Babs is the truth." So, Babs, I want to thank you for being the truth. And we appreciate you. So one time for my other mother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to invite you with questions for Dr. Edwards. Anyone, please?
I still can't see anybody.
Hi, Dr. Edwards. My name is Blaze. Maybe you can see me now because of the light. But I want to ask you a question in regards to your conversation about segregation in the schools. Well, first off, I'm not from here. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm born and raised, and have been in Harlem for about 8 years. And Black culture and seeing the different variations of Black and brown people here in Harlem is what inspired me to actually move here. So with that said, it's a beautiful thing that we do have this hub where it's like pretty much just us here, and that even trickles down to the schools, like you said. So with the conversation of segregation and equal rights for everybody to have the same learning opportunities, but then on the other side of that, we have places like Harlem where we are able to grow and be unapologetic about our who we are as people. I guess I wanted to just ask, like, how do you feel that we can keep our Blackness and the trajectory of being great, but also exposing our youth to different, just in my experience here in Harlem, I don't feel like we are giving our kids all the tools that we should be giving them as far as the arts, as far as writing, as far as math. I feel like we're still holding ourselves within the cell because we are in a box, if you will. But I don't want to, I guess, close ourselves off to the rest of the world with all the things that white communities do. Because I grew up in the suburbs and we're mixed communities where it's mostly white. But yeah, I just wanted to see what your thoughts are on keeping things Black, but also exposing our youth to, especially as technology and the world is transforming incredibly fast in the last 5 years. What do you think about exposing our youth and how we can effectively do that while also still keeping the Black culture within our communities?
Yeah, well, standards are important. You have to have good standards, good teachers. And another thing we used to do was insist on interviewing teachers coming in. The union, they died because some teachers complained, but I couldn't, I told parents, you have to know who's coming in. and not letting them just bring anybody in here, like they have math teachers who don't know math.
Yeah.
And some teachers just didn't care about it. And it's also attitude. I did some volunteer work at the elementary school next door to me. And the little boy wanted to go to the bathroom. So I told him he could go. And because the bathroom, I could see the door, and he went. And the teacher came out of her room and saw him in the hall, grabbed him by the arm, dragged him where I was, and said, one day he's going to get arrested. She couldn't take when I finished with her. You know, I mean, that child would have that in his head. And a lot of the kids were laughing because of what I did. But it was the same thing I wanted to do when the principal said that my son, he couldn't have a book on his grade, you know, because then he would have to have other kids have it on their grade. And I took a book and threw it at his head because he was trying to hurt my child. I mean, that is really hurting your child, hurting their futures. You have, you know, he stopped them from calling the police. But I take it very seriously what's happening to what is done to this community and these kids. And parents have to not take everything someone says to them and, you know, them playing like a trump, lying to them, saying their child is doing well when the child is not doing well. And that child goes for 8 years for not doing well, and then doesn't graduate or go to a good school. So communities have to set certain standards and let other people know what these standards are and adhere to those standards. So, and you don't have to, you know, some people, when Black powerless people say something or do something, they think they're militant. And you're not being militant. You know, you're having some sort of sense. You know what you're talking about. Yeah. But it's hard. It really is.
Well, thank you so much for your answer. I appreciate it greatly.
Good evening. My name is Davon. I'm from Baltimore. My question...
Where my family is from.
Oh, wow. What side?
They were in Catonsville.
Catonsville, okay. Mm-hmm. So my question, you mentioned Albert Shanker, and a little bit that I know about the community control movement around public education was that he, in being in charge of the teachers union, was an opponent of community control. And we're in a moment now where there's increased participation nationally of Black folks in teachers unions. I wonder, what do you make of the role of the teachers union given its history of being, again, an opponent of community control of education? Has that changed with the increased number of black people that are a part of many of the major teachers unions that are often at the forefront of education advocacy?
No, it seems to me that the blacks in the union are moderate. They don't raise any hackles about anything, you know, because if they did, and look at these scores that my son gave me, they wouldn't be that moderate. They'd do something about it. Shanker, we were sitting in a club because we were waiting for a meeting to start. And he was saying how he appreciated some of the things that I said, like Rosemary Gunning used to send me a Christmas card every year that I took up. That was the woman in charge of parents and taxpayers that was separating our kids when they went to Queens. There was something one point we agreed on. It could have been either charter schools or, no, he was against charter schools. But there's one thing that is a lot of people, especially unions and even civil rights people, are vouchers, because they think that, you know, white people will get vouchers and black people will not, you know, be, you know, go with that. But I always ask, if your child is failing, I mean really failing, and someone said, here's the voucher or money, buy him or her some education, what would you do? I know a Columbia professor told me he would take the voucher. You know, the mission is to educate this child. To not give them a voucher and let them get a good education, I think is not a good thing.
Thank you.
Good evening, Doctors Edwards and Watson. My name is Al McCutcheon. I am a former resident of Harlem, and a product of District 5 schools in the 1980s, particularly PS 125, Junior High School 43.
That was one of the better schools, 125.
125, and Junior High School 43. And then going to the east side of high school, I went to a school called Central Park East Secondary School in the late 80s, early 90s, which transformed my experience in education. I'm currently, right now, a PhD candidate at the Grad Center in Urban Education as well. I wanted to ask two questions, if I may. One question, because you were coexisting with the events that were happening in Oceanville, Brownsville, and I was wondering what kind of correspondence, what kind of interaction, what kind of conversations and interplay was going on between 201 and that of Oceanville, Brownsville. And the second question I had was a more of a visionary question, retrospective and then visionary for both you and Dr. Watson. What you mentioned, you referenced PS6 in terms of a good school. Paint us a picture in terms of what that good school should have looked like during that time period, from as granular as you possibly could be. And then contemporarily, Dr. Watson as well, what would a good school look like today, if there's any through lines? Thank you.
Well, you know that there are standards, you know there's a Board of Regents, and the state has standards for schools. Know the standards. For instance, I got some kids in the Dalton school and other school, good private schools. And one private school master told me that he never had to give our children do anything because they knew everything when they got there. So he said, "How do you do that?" I said, "I make believe they're my children." So he laughed, and those kids did very well. You were talking about Ocean Hill, Brownsville. Brody McCoy, he was the district superintendent for that demonstration school. And they had very large protests over there. In fact, he used to meet on my terrace with with principals, and Ella Baker used to meet in my living room with our lawyers because of our arrests. But I'm not that clear about what the question was about Ocean Hill, Brownsville.
Was there any kind of collaboration? Like, did you work?
Oh, yeah. 201 in Ocean Hill, Brownsville were more compatible than with Two Bridges. Two Bridges were very moderate. You know, they did well. They didn't do well, but they were goody-goodies. And but Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and 201 weren't that way. And we fought like hell with those people. And there was a collaboration between those two demonstration projects. And that was decentralization, not community control. We wanted complete community control when we set up 201. We wanted, you know, we had printers. We had a newspaper called Quayle. It was English and Spanish. In fact, I meant to bring a copy of it. But we had some really sharp people, administrators at 201. I didn't know all the people at Ocean Hill, Brownsville, but we met together periodically.
Thank you for that question, Al, and unfortunately that has to be the last one, but in response to the question about a good school, I think Rudine Sims Bishop said, we must provide children with mirrors and windows and sliding glass doors, and I think schools should give young people the opportunity to see not only who they are, but more importantly, who they can be. And until not just teachers, but parents and school leaders and administrators and anyone who cares about young people really takes the hearts and minds of young people into consideration to affirm who they are, to love them up to potential, and to build with families and communities, I think that we will forever have not an achievement gap, but an opportunity gap. And it's more about will than politics. It's meaning, what are we willing to do for it? And one of the reasons why I guess I gravitate so much to Dr. Edwards, because she was willing to go to jail for it. And I don't know too many people who are willing to invest like that into other people's children. So I want to thank you all for coming, for listening, and for listening to my other mother, Dr. Edwards. So one time for my other mother. Okay. Thank you very much, and we will proceed. Ready?
Yeah. Let me put on my glasses.